She looked like someone's grandma dragging an old rifle onto a modern military range. So Sergeant Connor smirked, mocked her, laughed with the recruits. They thought she was lost. What they didn't know. She wrote the combat manual he teaches from. One ricochet shot later, silence falls. Phone's record. Ranks shatter. Stick around, because when the truth echoes across the range, it won't be the bullet that hits hardest. It'll be the realization that a legend stood before them, and they almost missed her. We love to see where our viewers are from. Comment your location and the time you found this video. Subscribe to stay connected. The fluorescent lights of the shooting range gleam off James Connor's pristine tactical scope as he surveys his domain. Pride swells in his chest. At 26, he's the youngest range leader Fort Benning has seen in a decade. His authority here is absolute, or so he believes, watching the elderly woman shuffle onto his range with what looks like a Vietnam-era M14. "Check this out," James Connor whispers to the cluster of recruits nearby, his smirk widening as he adjusts his instructor's badge. The polished metal catches the light, reflecting his satisfied expression. Someone's grandmother got lost on her way to bingo. The resulting snickers feed his confidence like fuel to flame. The woman moves with deliberate precision, each motion measured and calm. Something about her methodical preparation niggles at the back of James Connor's mind, but he brushes it aside. This is his range, his moment to assert dominance. "Ma'am, this isn't a museum," he calls out, voice dripping with mock concern. "We use modern equipment here." The laughter from his admirers grows louder, but the woman doesn't even glance his way. Her indifference makes his jaw clench. James Connor steps closer, fingering his expensive scope. "Maybe you'd like me to demonstrate proper technique with current technology?" He makes sure his voice carries. "We wouldn't want you hurting yourself with that antique." The woman finally looks up, and something in her eyes makes him falter. They're sharp as rifle sights, assessing him with an intensity that feels like crosshairs settling on target. But James Connor recovers quickly, squaring his shoulders. "I mean, that M14 belongs behind glass, not..." The motion is so fluid he almost misses it. One moment she's standing still, the next the rifle is at her shoulder. A single crack splits the air like thunder. 3 targets, impossibly spaced, ring out in rapid succession. 1 bullet. 3 hits. The impossible ricochet shot he'd only heard whispered about in Special Forces legends. James Connor's scope slips from numb fingers, crashing against concrete with a sound that echoes like judgment. His ears ring with sudden silence as every eye turns from the targets to him. Someone's phone camera clicks. "That's..." His voice cracks, authority evaporating like morning mist. "That's not possible." Connor schooled flashes across a recruit's phone screen as the video uploads. His hands begin to shake as notifications start pinging. "Actually," a voice from the doorway cuts through the silence. "That's Lieutenant Colonel Marina Reyes, retired Ghost Recon. She wrote the manual you're supposedly teaching from, Connor." Type humbled. If you've ever learned the hard way that appearances deceive. The video hits 10,000 views in minutes. James Connor's empire of arrogance begins to crumble, one share at a time, as the woman who just shattered his worldview calmly packs up her antique rifle. He doesn't know it yet, but his next 24 hours will redefine everything he thought he knew about power, respect, and true authority. James Connor's stomach churns as his trembling fingers scroll through the classified files, illuminating his computer screen. Each swipe reveals another accolade, another impossible mission, Another confirmation that he has made the worst mistake of his promising military career. Lieutenant Colonel Marina Reyes. The name blazes across his retinas like an accusation. Ghost Squad's most decorated operative, Lewis whispers from behind him, but James Connor barely registers his friend's voice. His eyes are fixed on a grainy photograph from Operation Phoenix, the mission that became a legend at the Academy. The woman in combat gear, leading a team through impossible odds, bears the same steel in her eyes as the elderly visitor he had so foolishly mocked just hours ago at the range. James Connor's tactical scope sits abandoned on his desk, its scratched surface catching the fluorescent light. He had polished it obsessively this morning, proud of his perfect qualification scores, certain that no one could challenge his expertise. Now it looks cheap, amateur, a toy compared to the hardware detailed in these files. His phone buzzes again. Another notification about @Ghost Grandma trending. James Connor flinches, remembering his loud, sneering voice. "Maybe you should stick to knitting, ma'am." The memory of surrounding recruits' laughter, once satisfying, now scorches his pride. "There's more," Lewis says, typing rapidly. "Operation Phoenix wasn't just any mission. It rewrote the manual on impossible shots. That 3-target ricochet she demonstrated? She invented it, under heavy fire, saved her entire team." James Connor's mind flashes to his own instructor's words from basic training. "Arrogance kills faster than bullets." He had dismissed it as old-school thinking. His generation was different, better, more advanced. The same way he had dismissed Marina Reyes. His finger hovers over a video file marked Training Protocol, Reyes Method. Classified. Level 10 clearance, far above his rank. But Lewis has already broken enough regulations showing him these files. "Your career isn't the only one I'm risking," Lewis says, reading his hesitation. "But you need to understand what you've done." The video plays. James Connor watches a younger Marina Reyes moving through a combat course, her precision inhuman, her innovations revolutionary. Each shot, each movement, became doctrine, the same doctrine he had boasted about mastering this morning. His arrogance curdles in his chest. A new notification makes him jump. The base commander wants to see him, immediately. Outside his window, phones flash as recruits share the video of his confrontation with Marina Reyes. His mockery, her silence, the impossible shot that followed. "Did you know," Lewis says quietly, "that she personally designed our current combat training program? The one you topped?" He pauses, letting the implication sink in. "Every target you hit, every technique you mastered, they all came from her." James Connor's hands find his tactical scope again, fingers tracing the scratches he had been too proud to repair. Each mark tells a story of rushed shots, of choosing speed over precision, of believing he was too good for basics. The same basics Marina Reyes had perfected into art. His phone shows a new message from the Academy's historical archives. They want his first-hand account of meeting the legendary Ghost Squad operative, for their records, for training future generations. The magnitude of his error expands with each passing minute. This isn't just about one arrogant recruit mocking a veteran. He had publicly disrespected a living legend, someone whose innovations had saved countless lives, someone who had shaped modern military doctrine. "The thing about Ghost Squad," Lewis continues, his voice heavy with meaning, "is that they never operated alone. Every mission, every innovation required a network, people who remembered favors, people who remembered insults, James Connor's career stretches before him like a house of cards, built on skills he had claimed as his own genius, now revealed as the legacy of the very woman he had humiliated. He thinks of her eyes when he had mocked her. Not angry, not hurt, just observing, measuring, like she had seen his type before. Share this if you want everyone to understand true expertise. Type legacy if you've ever underestimated someone who shaped your success. His tactical scope reflects his face. Young, pale, realizing too late the weight of his actions. Outside, Had Ghost Grandma continues to trend. Each share another nail in the coffin of his reputation. But James Connor barely notices anymore. He's too busy reading about the woman whose legacy he had dismissed, whose innovations he had claimed, whose respect he had lost before understanding its value. The base commander's office awaits. His future hangs by a thread. And somewhere on base, Marina Reyes continues her inspection tour, her decades of influence rippling through every training protocol, every combat technique, every arrogant recruit who never knew they owed their skills to the elderly visitor with the impossible shot. James Connor's fingers trembled as he scrolled through the classified files, each page revealing another layer of Marina Reyes's legendary career. The fluorescent lights of his office seemed to dim as the weight of his morning's catastrophic mistake pressed down on him. 23 impossible eliminations. The Ghost Recon team's missions read like fiction, except they weren't. And he had mocked their leader, treating her like some washed-up veteran who didn't belong at his range. His phone buzzed again, the 100th notification in the past hour. The video of his confrontation with Reyes had gone viral. Connors. Fall trending across military forums and social media. The ricochet shot echoed in his mind, 3 targets dropping in impossible succession. His colleagues' faces appeared in doorways, their whispers carrying judgment he couldn't escape. "Did you see who she really was?" Lieutenant Parker's voice dripped with disdain as he passed James Connor's office. "Ghost Recon's Phoenix, the one who survived the Belgrade massacre." The words stung like shrapnel. Connor's hands instinctively reached for his recruit badge, the metal cold and accusatory against his palm. Another file opened on his screen. Operation Shadow Strike. His throat tightened as he recognized the mission parameters. It was the operation that had become required reading at the academy, the impossible extraction that saved 36 hostages without a single casualty. And Marina Reyes had led it. The security camera feed showed her walking past his office now, her posture straight, eyes forward. Several junior officers snapped to attention, their respect palpable. Connor's chest constricted as he remembered his sneering words. "The range is for active personnel, not has-beens." The memory made him nauseous. His supervisor's email popped up. "Meeting at 1400 hours regarding this morning's incident." Connor's career, built on his reputation as the Academy's top marksman, was unraveling. The viral video showed every second of his arrogance, followed by Reyes's devastating demonstration of skill. His phone buzzed again. Someone had dug up his academic records. They paled in comparison to Reyes's operational history. "Have you ever watched a legend destroy someone without firing a shot?" The comment under the viral video stabbed at his pride. 50,000 likes. His hands shook as he closed the file, but not before seeing the casualty count Reyes had prevented throughout her career. The numbers blurred before his eyes. Through his office window, he watched her disappear down the corridor, other officers parting like water. Her quiet dignity magnified his shame. The badge in his hand felt heavier with each passing moment, a symbol of authority he hadn't earned, respect he hadn't deserved. The whispers grew louder. That's him, the one who disrespected Phoenix. Each word was another nail in the coffin of his reputation. His phone buzzed one final time, a message from the range master. Effective immediately. Your range privileges are suspended pending review. Drop 1 if you've ever underestimated someone and lived to regret it. James Connor slumped in his chair, the full weight of the consequences crushing him. Marina Reyes hadn't needed to say a word. Her legacy spoke volumes, and his ignorance had broadcast his downfall to the entire military community. The ghost he'd tried to dismiss had revealed herself a legend, and he was the one who now seemed transparent, fading into insignificance with each passing hour. Officer James Connor's boots drag against the concrete of the shooting range, each step heavier than the last, as dawn's first rays pierce the morning mist. The tactical scope weighs like lead in his pocket, no longer a symbol of superiority, but a seat. Yesterday's sneers feel like ashes in his mouth now. The viral video of his mockery, followed by her impossible ricochet shot, has racked up millions of views. Connor schooled trends relentlessly, each notification on his phone another nail in his reputation's coffin. "Ma'am," James Connor forces out, his voice cracking. He clutches the scope tighter, knuckles white. "I was wrong." The words taste bitter but necessary. "Will you teach me?" Marina's silence stretches eternal. Her eyes, sharp as a hawk's, dissect him. James Connor fights the urge to squirm, remembering how he'd strutted around this very spot yesterday, calling her grandma and has-been. Now, he can barely meet her gaze. The morning air crackles with tension. A distant shot rings out from another lane, making James Connor flinch. Without a word, Marina extends her M14 toward him, the legendary weapon that had made 3 impossible shots in rapid succession, each bullet finding its mark through perfect ricochets. His hands tremble as he reaches for it. The weight feels different than he expected, more balanced, more alive. "First lesson," Marina's voice cuts through the morning stillness, "is respect. For your weapon, your target, yourself." James Connor swallows hard. The scope in his pocket seems to burn now. "I thought I knew everything," he admits, shame coloring his words. "I thought titles and tech made a marksman." Type "humbled if you've ever had to swallow your pride" appears as text across the screen, as James Connor's fingers trace the worn wooden stock of the M14. Marina positions herself beside him, her presence commanding without a word. "Show me your stance," she instructs. James Connor assumes what he thinks is perfect form, only to feel gentle but firm corrections to his posture. Each adjustment strips away another layer of his pretense. "Yesterday, you trusted your scope more than your instincts," she observes, tapping the pocket where his prized tactical scope sits. "Today, we learn to feel the shot." Hours pass like minutes. James Connor's arms ache, his ego shrinks, and his understanding grows. The viral hashtag continues to buzz, but somehow it matters less now. What matters is the way the M14 becomes an extension of his body, the way Marina's quiet guidance reshapes his understanding of marksmanship. "Final test," Marina announces as noon approaches. 3 targets stand at impossible angles. James Connor's heart rate spikes, the same setup as yesterday's humiliation. But this time, something's different. He feels the weapon's soul, respects its power, understands its language. Remember, Marina's voice carries the weight of decades of experience. The bullet knows the way. Your job is to listen. James Connor exhales slowly, centers himself, and squeezes the trigger. The shot rings out, then 2 metallic pings follow. 3 targets fall in succession. His first ricochet shot. Share this moment of redemption to inspire others, flashes across the screen as James Connor lowers the M14, hands shaking with emotion rather than shame. Thank you, he whispers, finally understanding that true strength lies not in arrogance, but in the humility to learn. Marina simply nods, a ghost of a smile playing at her lips. In his pocket, the tactical scope sits forgotten. James Connor has found something far more valuable. Respect for the art, the weapon, and most importantly for those who came before him. The morning's lesson echoes far beyond the range, transforming not just his aim, but his heart. James Connor stands in the gleaming atrium of the Reyes 017 shooting complex. My reflection in the polished memorial wall, a stark reminder of who I used to be. The tactical scope I once brandished like a trophy now rests in a glass case, positioned deliberately next to Marina Reyes's legendary M14, my arrogance preserved in perfect contrast to her mastery. The air conditioning hums softly, but I still feel the phantom heat of that day 6 months ago, when I thought I knew everything about marksmanship. The massive screens above the entrance loop that viral video. Connor Learns still appears occasionally on social media, though not with the same venom as before. My face flushes watching my younger self sneer at a woman who'd forgotten more about combat than I'd ever known. Today, we honor not just exceptional marksmanship, I hear myself saying at the podium, my voice steadier than my hands, but the humility required for true excellence. The words catch slightly in my throat as I spot Marina in the audience, her quiet presence commanding more respect than my loudest boasts ever did. The original video plays again, this time on all screens simultaneously. My stomach tightens watching myself swagger across the range, my tactical scope glinting arrogantly in the sun. Then comes the moment, that impossible 3-target ricochet shot. The gasps from 6 months ago echo in today's whispers of admiration. I've learned that legends don't need to announce themselves, I continue, gripping the podium. They prove themselves through actions, not words. Marina Reyes taught me that power isn't about domination. It's about precision, respect, and the wisdom to know when to be silent. The tactical scope in its display case catches the light, and I remember how I used to polish it obsessively, thinking it made me special. Now it serves a different purpose, a warning about pride, preserved alongside tools of true mastery. Marina approaches after the ceremony, her movement still carrying that efficient grace I'd once mistaken for weakness. The complex will serve many generations, she says simply, extending her hand. As we shake, I feel the calluses earned through countless hours of genuine discipline, so different from my superficial training. I keep watching that video, I admit, my voice low. Not because it went viral, but because I need to remember. She nods, understanding more than I say. Some lessons leave marks, James. The best ones change us completely. The sunset streams through the windows, casting long shadows across the range that will bear her name for decades to come. My tactical scope and her M14 share the same light now, telling a story of transformation that's bigger than either of us. Share this video if you've ever had to swallow your pride and learn from someone you underestimated. Type Humbled in the comments if you've experienced a moment that changed everything you thought you knew. The last visitors filter out, leaving me alone with the displays. I touch the glass case briefly, feeling the cool surface over my old scope. Some shots echo forever, but it's the silence afterward that teaches us the most. The loudest voice isn't always the wisest, I whisper to the empty range, the words bouncing back like that legendary ricochet. Sometimes the greatest power lies in learning when to listen.